growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, Dr. Steve Rasner here, and it is March 30th, and we are at the end of the first quarter, and I am so hoping that some of you are implementing or trying some of the Lionhearted principles that we discuss each week on this podcast, of which I have 3 cool things to talk about tonight, because they just work. Gosh, I hope you are doing it and getting it. And look, if you try something that I suggest and it doesn't work, let me know about it. Maybe I can tweak it for you. Maybe you're not doing it exactly. Maybe you're missing one part of it that would have a profound impact on you if you did it correctly. I mean, let me know either way. I mean, this is why I'm here. But we're at the end of the first quarter, and I'm telling you, man, I tell you when it's good and I tell you when it's bad. And I started out January and it wasn't working out that well for me. But I didn't panic. I stick to the principles that I share with you each week. And man, right now, and I'm sure it won't last, I'm sure I'll run into another rut at some point. They never last long. But when it's on automatic pilot, whew, when it's a symphony that you're conducting, you feel it. You get it. And everything seems so worth it. I mean, at one point today, I had a patient in my chair who I was checking a post-op from a exploratory I did for him 2 weeks ago. So this is a patient I did a tooth to implant bridge about 3 or 4 years ago. And he developed pain around the implant. And I did a CBCT. I even had a consult with a radiologist because I couldn't see anything. And they couldn't see anything either. He's such a good patient. And I elected to do an exploratory. I'm sure some of you have done a similar procedure before because I just couldn't make heads or tails of it. And I drew his blood and we did a PRF of a membrane to tuck under the flap. I didn't know really what I was going to get into. I was kind of prepared to take the implant out. I probed it. I couldn't find anything clinically, but I've been surprised before. And I wasn't. I went in there, I could find no pathology. And I just tucked a PRF in. And I didn't charge him. I'm sorry. It's just the way I roll sometimes. That's one of the benefits. If you go back to the fee podcast from a couple weeks ago and getting paid, which I'm going to talk a little bit more tonight about, getting paid what you deserve to get paid, it gives you the brevity and latitude to do a lot of nice benevolent things for people. So this guy, the next day there was this beautiful card and bottle of vodka in a nice bag that he had left on my desk with just a gracious thank you card. And now it's 2 weeks later. And I had mentioned to somebody, don't let me forget to thank him when he comes in for the post-op. Sure as I'm talking to you tonight. And I didn't forget. I mean, it was moving for somebody to do that for me. And sure as I'm talking to you tonight, one of my front desk comes back with a written sign. He couldn't see it because he was facing me, saying, don't forget to acknowledge his thank you gift. I mean, there are times during the year when I feel nobody gets it. So I'm just being honest with you right now. But more times than not, it does feel like a symphony of everything's right. I just can't. It's beautiful when it's clicking. It's like a championship sports team. And so my point is these principles work, man. And we've talked about so many. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. And before I get to that, let me thank all of you. We just had the best downloaded month ever in the 3 years plus I've been doing these. And a couple months ago, I was on the downtrend and it didn't feel good. And so it's hard to do these because there's no live audience. Your emails are my live audience. So I thank you very much. Thank you especially to Canada. Seems like I'm in the good graces with the Canadians again, a country I've lectured in more than any other except the United States. From coast to coast, my Canadian colleagues, and from Nova Scotia to Vancouver. So thank you very much, and all of you. It is inspiring when I go and check, and we're having so many people seem to continue to follow the Lionhearted podcast. The three things I want to talk about tonight are your staff and perhaps the feeling some of you have of feeling like you're hostages of a very toxic environment right now if you're in any business, and that would be the lack of available staff and some weird things that are seem to be happening because of that. Then I want to talk about everything you need to know about money, the money part of your practice that is so uncomfortable for all of us, including me. And then last thing I'll talk about on this podcast is the reason you feel stressed at work. So let's get with it. Several podcasts ago, I did a podcast about letters I received. And the letter I received relative to staff was that somebody's assistant requested a $5 an hour raise, and they had just trained her for a year and a half and felt like, what the heck? What do I do? And listen, let's just be honest. I don't know what that percentage is because I don't know what the person was making. Let's assume they were making $20 to $25 an hour. It's a pretty significant raise. Would everybody kind of agree? And that is what's going on. What's going on that I hear from my colleagues in the profession, whether it's that and more than that, quite honestly, sign-on bonuses. What? Sign-on bonuses, whether it's a hygienist, certainly a dental associate. And it's because the post-COVID staffing thing in every business has become problematic for all of us business owners. So what do you do? And when I tell you advice like this, it is the truth, what I would do. It's not hype because I have a podcast. It's what I would do because I also was faced with this exact scenario. I wouldn't give it. I would not give a raise based on desperation. Now, some of you that only have one dental assistant would find yourselves in an incredibly compromising position, right? I get it. And I guess the truth would be in that situation is I would ask the staff member if they could delay until I found somebody. And if I had to give them a temporary raise to keep a body there, I just wouldn't do it. I don't think you change the rules of what's appropriate. Yeah, I hope staff members are listening right now. Let me tell you something of how you get a raise. You get a raise because you've done one of three things. You have become more productive. You've brought greater productivity to each day in your practice because you have learned to do things that you didn't know how to do a couple years ago. Okay, that's one thing. You improve the morale because you're a bastion of positive energy that any dentist would welcome to everybody in the office. We all covet that. That is a legitimate reason. You're a positive energy. You don't call out sick. You know who you are. You increase morale. You improve morale. You improve productivity. Maybe you've thought of things that actually reduce overhead. I've had that happen to me. See, we can't give raises because you haven't had one in 18 months. It's just not. A lot of the dentists you work for haven't had a raise or an increase in pay in 5 years because Maybe they're paying down the beautiful office that you're working in. It's just not, some things in the working world, I don't know if appropriate is the right word, are fair or not fair. Now, let me be clear. I am pro staff getting raises, even without asking, by the way, if you've demonstrated one of the things I just mentioned, that you took night school, or you took some time to listen. You want to get a raise? Learn how to do beautiful provisional crowns. I mean, so your boss, your doctor, can walk into another room and be productive in that room with another assistant who doesn't have that talent. And I mean interior provisional restorations. And if you have the desire to learn such, Bill Strupp in Clearwater, Florida, has a course. He doesn't give it, but one of his dental assistants does, on how to make indirect temporaries, meaning out of the mouth, that are beautiful. It's not something you're going to get right after the course. It's going to take you 6 months to a year of study and practice, just like your doctor did. That is worth significant raise. Do you hear what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, dental staff members listening, Ray, you can write to me too. And I will tell you how to get a raise. You want to know how to get a raise? Be accountable. Be somebody that wants to further. I mean, really. You don't get to further your skills just by working more weeks and days and years. You get it by taking time, like we do, and other professionals, outside the office to make your craft better, to make you more valuable. It's just the truth. It may not be sexy, but it's the truth. I've had dental assistants apply for jobs with me that on their resume say they've been a dental assistant for 25 years that aren't as good as somebody I've had in my office for 18 months. Because if you do the same level, it's not your fault all the time. If you do the same level of dental assisting, the same skills for 25 years, who cares how many years you've done it? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to keep it real. You go to your boss with a written proposal of, I'd really like to discuss an increase in compensation. And this is what I've done in the last year and a half. And he'll know. And if you've done that already, then honestly, doctor, you probably should have given that person a raise. I want people in my organization to take it to the next level. I have 6 to 8 skill level sets that I'm having my master assistant, that's what I call the top level assistant, teach. I reward my master assistant with a financial compensation when she has taught my other staff members, because when you don't have to delegate to 1 or 2 people, I'm talking about in an office that may have 3 to 5 assistants. When you don't always have to rely on one assistant, it becomes remarkably more fluid, your days. Think about it for a minute. Can multiple people take sutures out? Or just one person? Do multiple people know how to write up a chart professionally? And so there's no liability in the chart documentation. You understand what I'm saying? Do multiple people know how to take a temporary off and clean the cement off or re-cement a temporary? And I mean professionally. We can talk. I don't want to take up the whole podcast with this, but my answer is, doctors, I would not be held hostage if it made me suffer, because there's a slide I use in my presentations. I've told you about it many times, called Leap and a Net Will Appear. And my point is, if you look with sincere intent and you market the service that you're looking for, a dental assistant, on Indeed or Monster or in the local community colleges that teach dental assisting, I've just never have known anybody who could not find that right dental assistant. It's sometimes it is more arduous. I would agree. I would rather suffer my productivity for a while than give in to what I think is a hostage like negotiation. It's just not right. So, I mean, nobody used to ask for $5 an hour raises. What was appropriate? I don't know. $2 an hour? I think that's pretty generous and a fair step up, and it's not forever. We can come back with that. But that's all I'm going to say about that tonight. The next thing I want to talk about for a minute, that's something I spoke about a couple weeks ago, and it was your fees. But now I'm going to talk about the money thing. Does anybody watching me right now or listening, is that ever really a good moment? You're walking up towards your checkout portion of your office, right? But you don't know at that minute somebody's collecting payments and you're right. I mean, it just never feels that comfortable to all of us, even me. And I say even me because I get paid up front most of the time. And I'm a little bit unabashed about the money part of my practice because I do think that practices that run well and provide top-notch services, and that is from top to bottom. That means a Walt Disney clean office to a beautiful reception room, clean reception room that's got treats in it again like I used to before the virus, that looks inviting, and you don't need to have waterfalls and crystal chandeliers in your reception room. I think a spa atmosphere is attractive to the greatest percentage of people. That's my opinion. When that's happening and just you're not forgetting birthdays and all the things that are on top of excellent clinical care that hopefully you're providing, and positive attitudes, and the staff is getting along, and you just feel it. Like at most Starbucks. I don't know if that's the right analogy. I rarely do I go into a positive, successful business where there's not a good vibe among, and that's really a good feeling for the customer, in our case, patients. And when that goes on, I don't know. The money thing is the price you pay to be in that environment. Do you really think all dentists take time out of their week to listen to a podcast to maybe get a little bit better because they pick up one pearl over listening for 30 some minutes? Here's the thing. Most of the time, even in my office, when I hear somebody doing a transaction, I just never, I don't know. I mean, what I hear is senior citizens making sure they got their discount. Today, Chris Rock tickets were made available to me if I wanted them. They were over $1,000 a piece if I wanted to sit in the 10th row. I hesitated. I don't know if I'm going or not. By the way, if you're listening, this is after he got slapped. Okay. This is the same week that he got slapped. So he's probably sizzling hot as a comedian right now. And I guess when you're going to entertainment, nobody frets about the money. Or if you stay at a Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons Hotel, I guess people, when they check out, perhaps, if the movie was bumpy that you saw in your room or a meal was a little, maybe they do. I don't most of the time. But here's about the money thing. 2 things I want to tell you about it. 3 things. Dedicate your professional life every day to maximizing the patient experience. Not once in a while when you remember, every day. That they can't get this down the street or even an hour away. I mean that. Now that is everything we've been talking about for 3 years. Do you do that or not? Because if you do, you shouldn't cringe when it comes to the money thing. You shouldn't cringe about your fees. You shouldn't cringe about getting paid. Number one, you need that. Number two, you need a killer. Killer as in she believes in you to the max. You're GV Black, financial coordinator. Now, my financial coordinator, I have done every dental procedure that exists. I have done root canal. I've done crowns. I have done bone grafting and implants. And she's a pretty tough cookie anyway, but I'm positive I've never hurt her. She can sell me with such authenticity because I have worked on her. Now, I've had the fortune of having her with me 40 years. So obviously, we don't all fall into that category. But her loyalty in representing me and my brand was like that the first year. You need that. You need somebody that absolutely believes in you. Do you know what her and I stumble over the most? And I'm going to contradict myself right now. It's me wanting to give a patient a break, or not when I want to do something benevolent for somebody that is in obvious distress or need. I had a patient today, I swear on my life, that came in. She's been coming to me for 20 years, and she came to me when her husband was alive. And they come an hour away, and they never miss appointments. And they spent money on their mouth over the years, significant money. Not roundhouses or all on whatever, but they've invested significant money. And he died about 4 years ago, and she continues to travel to see me. And she has put off the restoring of a tooth that is an abutment for her partial denture. No fancy dentistry, a couple crowns, partial dentures, no implants. And she put it off, and she was in my office in hygiene today. And it's obvious on the radiograph that she needs root canal and a crown. She's asymptomatic. There's no periapical lesion. It's obvious the caries is in her nerve, and it doesn't hurt her. And I have a picture of it on the screen and the x-ray. And I really gingerly tried to talk to her about doing that. And she says, I just can't afford it, Doc. That's why I can't do it. And it's the only thing she needed. So I turned to my hygienist as if it was a regular treatment plan. I said, put down first visit, hour and a half, root canal, and then a second visit for a crown. I'm just going to do it. I said this, and I wasn't looking at the patient. Then I look at the patient and says, I'm just going to do it for you. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it for you because I love you, but I'm also doing it for your husband, who I'm pretty sure is watching us right now. Now, why did I tell you that story? Because when you run your office right, as I've said, it gives you a lot of opportunity to be benevolent to people. And even though I want to get paid, I also am able, as are you, to do nice things. And this is not once in a blue moon for me. On my life, I had another patient stop in just to say hi to me today because I provided way, way, way more than that. And that patient, I'm talking about a removable prostheses on implants I did for free for a patient about 4 years ago, who had written me a letter, a 5-page letter, and heard about me. I did not know her beyond that. And I'm telling you that because that is the benefit of running it right. That's the benefit of getting paid up front. It's a benefit of having a financial coordinator who doesn't let you give everybody breaks. I walk away from it. I tell you this because the tone of this part of the podcast is that, yeah, I even I get a little uncomfortable. I just can't help it when it comes to the money thing. So I hired somebody who, my whole staff believes in me, as they do you, I'm sure. But the doggone financial coordinator has to believe in you. And if you have any sense that they're shy or they're timid or inhibited about presenting cost and treatment, see, in their mind, they have to believe that this patient is fortunate to come in and get this far. And they are. If you are a Lionhearted dentist and you have spent a lifetime dedicated to seeing, your career could be 3 years old, but you've spent those 3 years improving your skill set, then yeah, that patient in your chair is fortunate to have ended up in your chair and not the chair of somebody that's half in. And it's easy, guys, to take that part for granted of yourself. Like you must think everybody's in, and they're not. Think about it one more time. That patient makes a phone call. They end up in a dental practice somewhere. That phone call is predicated on advertising or word of mouth or whatever. Or, am I kidding? What insurance company recommended? Or convenient hours. And they could very well end up in an office where the doctor is not engaged and he's really not in. Or maybe he is motivated, or she, by something other than the proper, appropriate treatment plan. Maybe it's motivated by cost. I mean, we all just read about the dentist who got charged with doing crowns, just an extraordinary. Like, I would like to give him a break too, because I know there's two sides to every story, but he did an extraordinary amount of full coverage crowns in a very short time. I don't know. I think it's naive to suggest this is a big profession. There's hundreds of thousands of dentists in the United States alone. I don't think it's impossible that somebody could have a business that doesn't have the best of intentions. So when that patient does end up in a Lionhearted practice, that is ethical. That is really trying to give the best care they can and is engaged. Yes, that patient is fortunate because they could spend the money in a place that may not be that way. And then the third thing, so the first thing about money is run your operation so you're proud of it. So the people in your reception room or the new ones that are coming in, yes, they're going to pay for your services, but they're going to get the value for their money that they're paying. That's not everybody offers that. That's just what I'm saying to you. The second thing is the key person that presents the cost of treatment has to be your biggest fan. And if you can work on them, if they need something, they're the ones you should do free care on. If I had somebody that I thought believed in me, had been with me not for 6 days or 4 weeks, that had been in my office for a while, and, it happens, and said, would you mind taking a look at something? Damn right I would. In their mouth, and provide a service so they can see who they're working for. And then the third part of it that we've talked about at length before is getting paid up front. Because when you get paid up front, then there's not so many episodes where the money thing comes up again. Do you understand that? When you don't get paid up front, when you divide the payments into 4 or 6, whenever the next payment comes up is another uncomfortable, here we go again. So your scheduling coordinator knows that there's a $9,000 payment coming in on Thursday. So they call them on Monday and gently remind them of the appointment on Thursday, don't they? And they say yes. And on Wednesday night, they do it again, even more gently, to remind them, oh, we have a 2:00 tomorrow. I told you about the payment, didn't I? And then miraculously, on Thursday, that patient gets a cold, or their pet squirrel got a cold, or something that prohibits them from coming in. So when you get paid up front, there's less opportunities for awkwardness, or not that should be awkward, but it just got to trust me on it. I know it's a big moment and a big transition for many of you, and I'd gladly help you with it if you need the help with it. And then the last thing I want to say is this. I talked about why you're stressed. And other than money, the number one reason you're stressed is because you don't have enough time to do your procedures. And if you don't know that, one day it is just going to hit you. You won't allow yourself to be rushed anymore. If you're rushed, then it's your fault. Give yourself more time. It is such a beautiful way to practice. And you can do that only if you're efficient, if you've taken time to have this staff that is maxed at the skills they're allowed to deliver in your particular state or country. Goodness gracious, I gave you one perfect example. I mean, I haven't done, okay, let me back up on that. 2 weeks ago, I did my first anterior temporary bridge in 10 years because for the first time in 10 years, my master assistant called out. I'm not even kidding you. I can't remember the last time she called out. And I didn't want to cancel the case. And I had no other assistant, me. I have assistants that can make 2 units, maybe even 3 posterior, but there's no one I trust to do anteriors other than her. So I had to do it. And it killed my time. Just that skill alone. Another amazing skill, by the way, while we're at it. And I would pay your local lab to teach them how to do an anterior setup on a denture. It's just with phonetics and with aesthetics, or how to select the proper mold. We can talk all day about this, guys. This isn't pie in the sky stuff. This is real productive procedures that make you productive and make your day just flow beautifully. It's a beautiful way to operate. And one of the ways that enhances that is I don't feel the need to give minimum time to do a procedure. I always add a half an hour, sometimes more than that. And I will assure you, my productivity and my collections would make you pretty happy if you were the owner of that. We can make this happen for you. There's not a doubt in my mind that I can give you what I have. Even if you only want half of it, it'd be pretty good. But you got to be willing to pay the price. It's tiring to teach people. It's exhausting. And sometimes the people you teach don't stay with you. Guys, we're after the first quarter. We've got 3 quarters left of this year. Don't not write to me if you have a question. Write it take your phone right now and text yourself. Say, write to Rasner and ask him about blank and blank. All right. I'll see you next week on the Lionhearted. Thanks for listening.